Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Mouthing Off with Mike Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Mike, of course, and on this episode, we are going to be talking about WWE. You're watching my WWE recap episode, Are You Not Sports Entertained? And this week's episode, we are going to talk about the fallout from the Kevin Owens trade to SmackDown. What's going to happen between Seth and Drew in a couple weeks at Crown Jewel? We'll shift gears into NXT, and we'll talk about all of the women's matches. And on top of that, the ramping up build for NXT's 2-week event, Halloween Havoc. And then we will head over to the land of the Tribal Chief, and we will talk about the growing rivalry between the megastar L.A. Knight, and the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns. Sit back, relax, and let's go ahead and get into this past week in WWE. We are starting off this episode of Are You Not Sports Entertained? We're going to talk about Monday Night Raw from October the 16th of this past week. The show opened with Sami Zayn, which, as we now know, as of last Friday's SmackDown, Kevin Owens and the Sami Zayn partnership is over because Kevin Owens was the superstar sent to SmackDown in exchange for Jey Uso. Now, Sami Zayn basically goes on to say that he feels now that without Kevin Owens, it's time for him to focus on something that he believes he is deserving of, and that is a World Heavyweight Championship. So Sami Zayn already hinting that he's probably going to start mixing it up in the world title picture on Monday Night Raw, which I love. The guy has yet to hold a world title on the main roster, so it's got to happen soon. I really hope it does. Now, the Judgment Day actually interrupt this, and it looks like Sami Zayn's on his own. You know, the entire Judgment Day is here, and they are going to pick the bones of what's left of Sami. But main event Jey Uso comes down and makes the save for Sami Zayn. Now, this definitely is going to lead to a very interesting story now for Sami, as that has been exhibited throughout Monday Night Raw. We'll see these two interact in a backstage segment where Sami basically confesses to Jey, like, look, I blame you for this. And Jey Uso was a little shocked, but then Sami kind of took it back. They hugged it out, and everything's Usi now. But between himself and Drew McIntyre, Sami that is, things are not very Usi. Drew basically challenged Sami, and those two are going to have a match on Raw next week after a backstage segment throughout Monday Night Raw. First official match on Raw was going to see a Falls Count Anywhere match between the King of Strong Style, Shinsuke Nakamura, and the resident superhero of WWE, Ricochet. Now, let me tell you something right now. This match exceeded all expectations. I loved it. Ricochet did a shooting star press with the assist of a fan, so shout out to that fan, in the crowd onto Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, Shinsuke did get the win in this match, but it was a hell of an opener for Monday Night Raw, and it was a fun start to the show. We did once again see some GTS, CM Punk's signature move, his finisher, in this match by Shinsuke. USA Network has been hinting, posting comments, replies to WWE stuff. I love it. I think it's hysterical. Listen, do I think it's possible? Yes. Do I think it's realistically going to happen? Probably not. But I still love it. I think it's fun, and it just starts the conversation across the internet wrestling community, and, you know, people are running with it, and I think it's funny. We get more women on Monday Night Raw tonight, just like we did last week. We saw Tegan Nox, we saw Natty, we saw Piper Niven, we saw Becky, Candice, Indy, and a returning Nikki Cross, all on Monday Night Raw tonight. Awesome stuff. Piper Niven had a match with Natty as well. Piper won that match against Natty, and then after herself and Chelsea were going to beat her up and, you know, take care of her, but Tegan Nox makes the save. Now, those four teams, things are not over. We'll actually see them pop up on NXT as well Tuesday night. So the ladies across the board things are starting to really ramp up. So maybe the conversation can be said that, hey, look, I think Triple H might have full creative control, and look at what's going on these last 2 weeks. Triple the amount of women on Monday Night Raw. And honestly, Shawn Michaels is a master chef in his own regard with NXT. 4 women's matches this week, 4 women's matches last week. We have 5 for next week for week 1 of Halloween Havoc. Chef's kiss. Guys, cooking it up over on the NXT side. Seth and Drew have a fantastic promo battle, talking about the past, talking about the future. Seth telling Drew to just get over the bloodline. Drew's like, how can I get over this? You got to win these titles that you've held in front of thousands upon thousands of fans. When I won the big one, no one was there. It just hits different, man. I'm really pulling for Drew to win the World Heavyweight Championship in front of a crowd because he's earned it. He's deserving of it. And I think Drew as a heel just is going to be the right move for his character for the foreseeable future. I think Drew as a heel was always a couple steps above the good guy, Drew McIntyre, but not to discard, that side of his character. He's a great good guy, but I always leaned a little bit more towards him when it came to him being a full-on bad guy. Great stuff here, hyping up that Crown Jewel match. I think it's going to do wonders for both guys. I think Drew could dethrone Seth realistically at Crown Jewel. Kaiser and Johnny Gargano have a match. Johnny loses. Wasn't a big fan of it. Hate to see it. His first match since coming back after an extended period of absence, essentially. Kaiser, they're pushing him, and it looks like, with some of these video packages we've seen on Raw last week, looks like they're going to start pushing him as a singles guy. He's got the look. He's got the promo for it. So I think that could be a really good decision on their part. Would hate to see something with Imperium break down, but if they keep the group together and Kaiser just kind of does his own thing while Gunther is the most dominant Intercontinental Champion, then so be it at that point. Becky and Indy have an interaction with Candice LeRae backstage. Becky's going to defend her NXT Championship against Indy on Raw next week. Should be a fun match. Rhea and Shayna, we're going to have a match here. Rhea and Shayna, Raquel, Nia, Zoe, everybody comes out. It's a whole chaos. Once again, double the amount of women we saw last week on Raw, and we saw a lot of women on Raw. I love what we're doing here. We have 3 hours of Raw. Let's fill it up, man. We can get some additional women on the show, and that's exactly what they're doing. Becky as NXT Women's Champion doing wonders because it's essentially being used as a mid-card title between Raw, and then it's the main title for the women on NXT. So there's a lot of crossover happening, and I absolutely am here for it. Bronson Reed taking on Gunther. Sound the alarms, ladies and gentlemen. We've got our first big meaty man bumping meat segment on the Mouthing Off with Mike Wrestling podcast video version. If you listen to the audio all these couple months, you'll know big fan of the meat bumping when it comes to professional wrestling. 2 meaty men, especially Bronson Reed. That man's scary. Imagine him coming off the top rope with that tsunami. Nah, dude, I'm good. I'm good. Him and Gunther go out there and have themselves a banger. This is your Mouthing Off with Mike match recommendation from the WWE side this week. Once again, I feel like Gunther, if I were to go back and look at some of my past episodes, I think Gunther's got that prestigious award for this show a long time. A lot of times, I should say. So another great title defense for Gunther. Who's going to dethrone him? I still think it's Chad Gable. I still think it's coming. I just am hoping that when it happens, the crowd just goes absolutely wild for whoever it is, because that is a massive accomplishment in the modern age, just like it'll be a massive accomplishment for whoever dethrones Roman Reigns with his 1,100 plus state title reign. The main event of Monday Night Raw is going to see the main event nightmares, Cody Rhodes and main event Jey Uso, defend their tag titles against the Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Damian Priest. And thanks to good old Jimmy Uso, the Judgment Day have regained the tag team titles and are once again reigning supreme across all 3 shows in WWE. Now, we will not see the last of Jey Uso this week. We'll see him on Smackdown. But for the most part right now, it looks like the story is back to being on hold for Cody Rhodes to head to SmackDown to confront Roman Reigns. They teased it last week. This week they took it away from us with Cody and Jay dropping the tag titles. Something tells me with Survivor Series and some of the hints that we've been getting for some brand warfare between Adam Pearce and new GM of SmackDown, Nick Aldis, something tells me that those tag titles might be splitting very, very soon. Raw, good show this week. If I were to give it, I give it 3.8 out of 5. Coming up, we're going to get into NXT. We are back. We're going to get into NXT, and we're going to start this week's episode of NXT with the good old bada bing, bada boom battle royal to determine the family's number one contenders for those beautiful NXT Tag Team Championships. Hey, listen, I'm a big proponent of anything that has to do with the family, Italians on my television screen when it comes to professional wrestling, so I love it. Where's the freaking gabagool? The winners of this match just so happen to be Chase U. Andre Chase and Duke Hudson are your number one contenders for those NXT tag titles. We'll see that match take place on Halloween Havoc the next 2 weeks on NXT. Speaking of NXT, speaking of Halloween Havoc, one of my absolute favorite matchmakers, Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal, has returned, and we've got 2 new submissions for the Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal matches for Halloween Havoc. Gigi Dolan spun the wheel, and she's going to take on Blair Davenport in a lights-out match next week on week 1 of Halloween Havoc. Love it. Second Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal is going to see Roxanne Perez spin the wheel, and she's going to take on Kiana James in a Devil's Playground match. And of course, Halloween Havoc is hosted by Shotzi and Scarlett. So I'm excited for Halloween Havoc the next 2 weeks. I love that it just coincides with Halloween as well. The second week of Halloween Havoc is a Tuesday. Halloween falls on a Tuesday this year. So that just hits even better for me. I'm all about it. I love it. Next week on NXT Halloween Havoc week 1, we have five women's matches. This week on NXT, we had 4. And there were some pretty solid matches across the board. We had Shotzi take on Kiana James. Shotzi got the win in that match, which set up the whole Roxanne Perez spinning the wheel. We saw Lyra Valkyria take on Tegan Nox. She got the win in that match. We also saw Carmen Petrovic take on Jada Parker in the first round of the NXT Women's Breakout Tournament. Carmen was able to get the win in her match as well. And that final women's match, Ariana Grace defeat Brinley Reese in another match for the NXT Women's Breakout Tournament. Now, unfortunately, that match was originally supposed to see Jakara Jackson, but it looks like she's injured, recently posting a photo on social media Saturday morning that she is in a cast. She might have broke her wrist. Hate to see it. She's got massive upside. I think she's going to be a big-time star in the women's division for NXT very, very soon. So, hopefully, here's to a speedy recovery for Miss Jackson. Like I said, NXT cooking it up. No matter what, Shawn Michaels, in my personal opinion, has been putting out a great 2 hours of sports entertainment, professional wrestling from the NXT side, week in, week out on NXT. So right there, I'll answer the question myself. Was I sports entertained? Yes, I was. Formerly known as Brian Pillman Jr., Lexis King is ready to make his NXT debut, and he will make his NXT debut on Halloween Havoc Night 1. And as NXT went off the airwaves after a wild main event that we'll talk about here in just one moment, Jade Cargill is hinting that her time is now. So I think Jade might be heading to NXT. I really hope so, because I think that fits perfectly. Give me a 6-month, 9-month run in NXT, pure dominance, get her up to the main roster, right? Maybe right after Royal Rumble, or maybe have her come to the Rumble. that's her debut for the main roster. I don't know. I don't book the shows. I just recap and talk about it and tell you what I thought about it. NXT, though, main event was originally a triple threat with Carmelo Hayes taking on Baron Corbin and Dijak. But Cody Rhodes last week, before his temporary GM status expired, made Trick Williams official in the match. So it is now a fatal four-way. But before the match can happen, Trick Williams gets attacked backstage and unfortunately is medically not cleared to compete. So it goes back to a triple threat, which Carmelo Hayes wins. Now, anytime we see good friends in a match for a title or an opportunity for a title, there's always going to be some antics that maybe come out. Carmelo and Trick, they broke up. They parted ways on their own terms. Trick went out there, held the North American title for about 3 days, lost it back to Dirty Dom. Melo lost his title to Dragunov. So is there tension between them? Maybe. But recently, it was brought to my attention on Twitter by someone that we haven't seen Wesley in a few weeks. Wesley quit, in the background of NXT. A couple weeks ago, he was seen throwing out his stuff, packing up. His wife was there, and they dipped. And Wesley at the time was kind of beefing with Trick and Melo. Like those three, it was a little weird. Like there was a little bit of tension there. So thanks to this Twitter user, ex-user, whatever you want to call it now, brought to my attention just by tweeting, so that there's a possibility that who attacked Trick was Wesley, and we might be getting a heel version of Wesley. Now, I still think it could have been Melo, and that's how we're going to set up that Melo Trick storyline, and, eventually once that ends, Melo maybe goes to the main roster. But back of my mind, I could see maybe it was Wesley. I guess we'll find out maybe next week, the week after on Halloween Havoc. But NXT, once again, great 4 women's matches. I'll say it again, 4 women's matches. Even Raw, we only had, I believe it was 2 on Raw, but we did have about 10 different women, if not more, showcased throughout the show. So good to see that we're making strides and improvement there. We'll get into SmackDown here next, and we'll talk about the women's title main event, which saw Charlotte Flair take on Io Sky for the title. And we'll talk about a return from a certain somebody. So don't go anywhere. But I am a WWE Shop affiliate, which means that if you use my special link curated just for you down below in the description of this episode, you will in turn support Mouthing Off with Mike. So make sure you get your gear. We've got some great new gear from LA Knight. Yeah. Got some great new gear from Cody Rhodes, The Judgment Day. Bianca Belair got a new shirt as well this week. So go ahead, check the link in my description. Check out with it. Get yourself some new gear and support this small indie podcast. Now let's get back into the action. We are back after a quick word from your boy about some WWE Shop affiliate links. We're going to talk about Friday Night Smackdown. In the words of my man, Pat McAfee. I miss you, Pat, every week. I need you on commentary, man. I know you're on College Game Day, but get back over to WWE, bro. We need you. SmackDown, kicking off the show here with the wise man, Paul Heyman, and the megastar, LA Knight. Yeah. Man, does that man know how to talk? Because he diced up the wise man. And Paul Heyman has one of the best managerial promos. He's just one of the best promos in the game. Like, still to this day, all these years later, Paul Heyman still has a way with words that could be studied for wrestlers, upcoming wrestlers, for years to come. The guy is just so good when it comes to his words. LA Knight is another guy like it. Great opening segment from LA Knight. Just really selling the possibility that he could dethrone Roman. And I think until we get to next week on SmackDown with the contract signing, where those two will be face-to-face, I think this was a great way to keep hyping up the match, hyping up, why LA Knight is even getting this opportunity, why he deserves it, why he's earned it after all these years of grinding. And honestly, I would love to see LA Knight win it, but I know it's not happening. But at the same time, to be a guy just a year ago with a male model gimmick who was potentially on the chopping block to now being one of the most popular, most crowd-grabbing characters. Like, the crowd they hear that opening to his music, and like it's boom. The crowd is locked in. Doesn't matter where. There was a couple crowds that were a little sleepy over the last couple weeks. When they heard his music, they jumped. So I love it. I think this is a great match for Crown Jewel because, look, at this point in an 1,100 plus day title reign, who's left? Who believably is left to beat Roman? I mean, I think Cody is probably the one to do it, but maybe not. Maybe it's not Cody. Could it be a guy like LA Knight? Just maybe. And that's what they're doing with these promos. Next week, like I said, contract signing, it's going to do the same thing. Probably hit a BFT on Roman. Roman hit him with a spear at the end of SmackDown last week. So there's a possibility that LA Knight wants to get a little bit of payback for that. I loved it. Montez Ford taking on Santos Escobar here. A little bit of the almighty Street Profits taking on the LWO. Montez Ford gets the win for his group against Santos Escobar. After the match, there's some chaos with Bobby and Dawkins. The LWO come out. They stop it. I'm sure we're going to start seeing these two factions probably beefing for the next couple weeks. Hopefully, we see Carlito versus Lashley. Like to see that. I mean, who would have thought in 2023 I'd be saying we're going to see Bobby Lashley versus Carlito? You'd think I was crazy. You'd be like, what is this, 2007, dude? No, it's 2023. And I'm here for it. John Cena comes out to the ring here. And he cuts a promo, and I thought he was about to hang it up, and that was it. He was about to announce, hey, look, Hollywood's on the line. I got to go. But I guess the strike isn't formally over yet, at least for the actor side of things. So we've got John for a couple more weeks. I'm hoping, as much as I don't want to see the actors on strike, man, do I love me some John Cena in a WWE ring. John Cena points out that he has an over 2,000-day losing streak going on. The man has not won a singles match in over 2,002 days. Insane. If you would have told me that stat, I don't know, let's just say like 2015, I would have never believed you because the guy, was winning everything. Now, at this point in his career, he's putting guys over. He's doing the deed. He's helping these young guys get accomplished, get that status. Even guys that, maybe aren't quote unquote so young age-wise, but at least in WWE. Love it. He's doing the right thing. Solo Sikoa comes out. Looks like things are about to get a little intense. But Jey Uso is here. This, in turn, is probably leading to maybe John Cena versus Solo Sikoa at Crown Jewel. Maybe. Maybe not. It leads into Nick Aldis throwing out Jey Uso and Adam Pearce from SmackDown. And Adam Pearce hits him with the, all right then, let the games begin. So we could be hinting at War Games for Survivor Series, but I love the way we're building the brand supremacy, brand warfare that I have come to love in the past with WWE's Survivor Series. It used to always be Raw versus SmackDown for bragging rights. I hope this year they're able to find a way to make it a little bit more worthwhile. Maybe the winning brand, gets some sort of boost, or they get, their own pay-per-view, or there's some sort of one of the winners gets a title shot for one of the respective titles. Whatever the case may be, I hope they find a way to really make it worth something and mean something. But just the interaction with Aldis and Pearce now, as the respective GMs for SmackDown and Raw, having this little subtle headbutt, I like it. This is setting up to potentially be one of the better Survivor Series with all the rumors of possibly Randy Orton. If you really want to throw a string out there, maybe CM Punk. We'll see what happens with all that. Time will tell. I'm not going to get too bought into rumors and things like that. When Survivor Series comes, we'll see if Randy appears, Punk appears, if neither appear, both appear. I don't know. As long as you guys don't disappear, we're good. A-Town Down Under. Austin Theory and Grayson Waller are in tag team action against Dragon Lee, new SmackDown roster member, and Cameron Grimes to the moon. They are going to go ahead and defeat the impromptu team of Dragon Lee and Cameron Grimes. I don't know what the plans are for A-Town Down Under, but there was a segment with Kevin Owens and Kathy Kelly for a little bit of an interview, and Kevin Owens did mention their names, so maybe KO is going to hit them boys with some stunners. I don't know. We'll find out. Holy Union is back with another creepy, spooky, bewitching segment, vignette. And I love these two. They're going to do great things for the WWE Women's Tag Team Division when they finally make their impact back. I could already see Chelsea Green and Piper versus those two. Maybe those two win the titles, and then Chelsea Green probably transitions into the singles side of the championships. I think she's got everything it takes to be a champion in the women's division, whether a tag team or a singles champion. So she's highly entertaining. Logan Paul and Rey Mysterio. Ladies and gentlemen, I personally respect Logan Paul. I respect the guy. Do I respect some of his past? Absolutely not, but we're all human. We all make mistakes. But I respect him because now he seems to be way more serious about being billed as a WWE superstar. They billed him as one during his boxing match against Dylan Dennis, which honestly, that wasn't even a boxing match. That was really just an embarrassment to professional fighting. Even Logan said it. Logan's like, this wasn't even I'm ashamed that I was even a part of this. He won it, beat the guy, and now he is looking for some gold in the form of Rey Mysterio's United States Championship. Now, Rey makes a comparison of Logan to his son Dom. I get that. But the beginning of Logan's promo, and he is really starting to improve on these promos. Like, the guy has been doing YouTube videos for God knows how long exactly. Like, since I was in high school, I remember him making these videos. So he knows how to talk to a camera. He knows what he's doing. He's got a multi-million, billion-dollar drink company. So it's like the guy knows what he's doing. Smart guy, business-minded, and he's really starting to take the WWE thing serious. I think himself and Rey, they're going to have a good match. It's made official. Rey accepts the challenge for the U.S. title at Crown Jewel. And like I said, Logan's growing on me here, guys. You may not like it, but I think the guy's here to stay. Your main event of SmackDown is going to see Io Sky defend her women's championship against Charlotte Flair. Woo! And this was a pretty solid match for the main event of SmackDown. The ladies main eventing. Obviously, we know 2 hours of SmackDown with a Bloodline Center focused story. The women, sometimes they don't get that TV time. Tonight, they got the TV time. They got essentially the final 20 of SmackDown to go out there. They had themselves a nice match. After some antics with the Damage Control members, Dakota Kai and Bayley, Io Sky was able to retain her women's championship after the match. Damage Control were breaking down Charlotte, attacking her, and she's back, ladies and gentlemen. The EST of WWE, Bianca Belair, has made her return, and she's saved Charlotte Flair. So I don't know what we've got cooking with the women's division on SmackDown right now, but it might be heading to a potential another triple threat match for the women's championship at Crown Jewel. Maybe. I don't know. Bianca, Charlotte, Io, again, we're running it back from SummerSlam after the whole cash-in with Io. Could be something to take note of. I don't know if that's going to make the Crown Jewel card. They've already got the Fatal 4-Way, I think it is, or 5-Way for the Women's World title with Mommy Rhea Ripley defending the title against Nia, Zoe, Shayna, and Raquel. So Fatal 5-Way happening there. Could we see a triple threat on that women's side? Just maybe. Listen, when we come back, we're going to get into the final mouth off with Mike, and I'm going to give you my unedited, unsanctioned thoughts on this past week in WWE. So stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back on the Mouthing Off with Mike Wrestling Podcast, and Are You Not Sports Entertained, my WWE weekly recap show. Now, we are in the final mouth off, and the final mouth off this week is honestly, it's simple, it's quick, I'm not going to drag it out. WWE's been firing all cylinders, ladies and gentlemen. I am absolutely loving what we're doing with the product. Raw, we're starting to get more women. NXT, we've got like 4 to 5 women's matches per week the last 2 weeks, heading into next week with Halloween Havoc Night 1. I love the way the women's divisions are taking shape across Raw and NXT. I would love to see some additional women featured on SmackDown outside of Charlotte, Bianca, Io, obviously Io the champ, but I want to see some more women. I know we got more women on the SmackDown roster besides the Unholy Union. We know that they're heading towards Chelsea Green and Piper's tag titles, so I want to see a couple more pop up on SmackDown. Other than that, this week, WWE, great. I was sports entertained on Raw, NXT, and SmackDown. So Shawn Michaels and Triple H, they're cooking in the pot. They're whipping it up fresh every week for us. And it seems now these rumors might really hold some precedent and be true that Triple H has full creative control, because this week Raw and SmackDown really felt like Triple H. They did not feel like Vince. I don't know how to describe that other than my years of watching WWE with under Vince, and now these last, couple months to a year with Triple H. Obviously, we know there had been some outside feedback, from Vince. So to possibly have full Triple H creative control over Raw and SmackDown, and then Shawn with NXT just killing it. Like, I have no complaints on NXT. I love NXT. It's silly, it's goofy, it's serious. The in-ring action is there. There's multiple storylines going on. They're branching off into different characters. Everything's moving at all times with NXT. It's 2 hours of quick, fun, entertainment wrestling. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, I will also have my AEW episode out, thoughts on what's going on in the AEW world this week. So stay tuned for that. This podcast is also available on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeart, all of the above audio channels you can listen to podcasts. So make sure we'll check it out on the audio side if you can't watch video. Of course, make sure you subscribe here to the channel for the foreseeable future for all my fun new content. I'm going to have an interesting series for November. I'm hoping all things go according to plan. So thank you guys so much for watching. Are you not sports entertained? Let me know in the comments of this episode, were you sports entertained? Thanks from your host here at Mike of the Mouthing Off with Mike Wrestling Podcast. Go out there and enjoy some pro wrestling.